Welcome to NACI TV Reads the News. My name is Gwen Jacobsen, and I'm one of many volunteers that help create programming for our station. NACI TV can be seen on MTS Channel 30 or 1030, Westman Cable Channel 17, Bell Satellite Channel 592, or online at nactv.tv. These programs are made possible by our volunteers, staff, advertisers, as well as donations made by you, the viewers. If you are enjoying your NACI TV experience, please consider supporting us by either donation or volunteering. You can contact our office at 204-476-2639 or at nactv@wcgwave.ca. This week's edition of the Neepawa Banner and Press is dated Friday, March 24th, 2023. On the front page, the big news of the week, Neepawa's community kitchen gets a makeover by Casper Werhan. Neepawa's ArtsForward received a pleasant surprise late last week. This was due to the announcement of the grant recipients for the Arts and Sport in Community Fund. The local Arts and Culture Centre was among the 402 recipients and will be receiving a total of $25,000 for the purpose of renovating its kitchen. Yvonne Sisley, Administrator and Director of Programming for ArtsForward, told the Banner and Press on March 20th that she truly felt shock and happiness when the announcement came down. We put this grant application in September of last year, and initially it was supposed to be 6 weeks after the closure of the grant to find out the results, Sisley explained. So it's kind of a checking every couple of weeks to see if there's been any word on it. Sisley added, "We were pretty overjoyed. The kitchen has been needing some work and some upgrading." It goes on to say, the scope of the renovation is fairly extensive, with the renovation being significant to ArtsForward's mission as well. This is because the main drive for the renovation was to make the kitchen wheelchair accessible. "This is huge," she said. We're trying to make all of our programming inclusive and accessible for everyone. So to be able to add another layer of inclusivity and accessibility is big for us. For some of the programming that we have, even some of our children's programming, there's some students that I know would love to join if they had access to the counters and different things like that while being in a wheelchair. The plans for the kitchen include the addition of another cooking area, which means the availability of an additional stove, replacement of all countertops, adding wheelchair accessibility countertop, and an additional 3-compartment sink. So we're moving things around, adding things, and adding better ventilations as well. But that's not all. Another much welcome addition in the form of an apartment-sized washer and dryer is being planned for. We don't have anything in the building that we can wash aprons or anything, even just from our painting programs, Sisley explained. It will be nice to have that so that I'm not having to remember to take everything home to wash it and then bring it back. A timeline for the renovations is currently not available. However, plans to meet with the involved contractors have been arranged so that a game plan can be developed and the necessary items ordered. This way, as soon as everything is in, we can just get to it so that the kitchen isn't down and out of use for too long. As the kitchen at ArtsForward is a commercial kitchen, a representative of Public Health was also invited for a walkthrough of the changes and to provide recommendations on the upgrades to ensure the commercial kitchen status is maintained. Other notable local projects getting support through the Arts, Culture, and Sports in Community Fund include Beautiful Plains Museum, $25,000 for construction of a fire truck garage. Well, there you go. And this is a picture of the existing kitchen at ArtsForward, and as you can see, it does need some upgrading. Oh, that's great news. All right, what's next? So it looks like there's new owners for Neepawa's Freshmart grocery store by Ken Waddell. A long-standing Neepawa grocery store called Freshmart is under new ownership. The new owners are Manoj Salavadia and his wife Alpa Rudana. The couple have operated food-related businesses in Minnedosa and Brandon, where they currently reside. Manoj said in an interview with the Neepawa Banner and Press that they plan to buy a house as soon as possible in Neepawa. They have a son in grade 8 and a daughter in grade 4. Freshmart has operated under various names over many decades, including Williams Tomboy and Shop Easy, and for the last little while as Freshmart. In an August 2022 article in the Neepawa Banner and Press, it was reported that the owners and operators of the business formerly known as Shop Easy recently celebrated their 25th year at their location at 250 Hamilton Street. At that time, now former owner Blake Rowe told the Banner and Press that he was very proud to have hit this notable milestone. Neepawa's Freshmart is known for customer service, and the new owners say they plan to build on that reputation, and they also plan to retain the current staff. The Adams Family Comes to Strathclair by Rowena Martin and Becky Ardeel-Voth from the Strathclair Drama Club. If you have been around the Strathclair area over the past 39 years, you may look forward to the Strathclair Drama Club's yearly announcement regarding their anticipated spring drama production. While the COVID-19 pandemic put the club's production on a hiatus for 2 years, the club members were more than happy to get back to business in 22 by finally bringing Mary Poppins to the Bend Nat Theatre stage. Over the summer, a production team was formed and the search was on to find the perfect play for 2023. Without further ado, the Strathclair Drama Club is thrilled to announce the 39th production, The Adams Family, a new musical. Bringing back memorable characters from Charles Addams and the early cartoon days, this production by Marshall Brickman and Rick Ellis introduces the audience to new normal characters along with the macabre originals. Since first hitting the Broadway stage back in 2010, audiences have enjoyed the magic that The Addams Family, a new musical, brings to the stage. You won't want to miss this production. A night at the Bend promises the charm of the beautiful Bend Theatre combined with the talent of a vast cast of 43 people from southwestern Manitoba. Mark your calendars. Production dates for this year's show are Monday, April 17th through to Saturday, April 22nd, with a 7:30 p.m. nightly start time. Tickets go on sale Saturday, March 25th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Like last year, ticket sales will be by phone only. $20 main floor and $15 balcony. The contact number for the box office is 204-365-2436 or at 204-365-7246. And for our own Neepawa Theatre, this coming weekend, March 24th and 5th at 7:30, the show is going to be called Mummies. 3 mummies end up in present-day London and embark on a journey to recover a ring stolen by the ambitious archaeologist Lord Carnaby. It looks like a cartoony type of show. And then there's a matinee on March 26th at 2 p.m. Okay, let's see what else we have here. Out of Helen's Kitchen by Helen Drysdale. This week her article is entitled Freezer Meals. So she says, I've always been a big fan of freezer meals. When I'm cooking, I use the motto, cook once, eat twice. If you are making the effort to cook, which usually makes a mess, why not cook an extra meal for the freezer at the same time? One mess, 2 meals. This takes a bit of planning, but it also helps you to better with less stress on the nights you do not have time to cook. This can save you from making additional trips to the grocery store, going out to eat, or running to get takeout. Making and freezing simple meals with groceries on sale helps you succeed with your freezer meal cooking and stretching your monthly food budget. When lean ground beef or pork is on sale, I buy a large pack or 2. One time I will make the whole pack into meatballs. I put the raw meatballs on a lightly greased baking tray and bake them in the oven at 350 for 15 to 20 minutes or until they are just cooked, but do not overcook. I freeze them and take out the amount I need and gently simmer them in my favorite sauce. I also make meatloafs when ground beef is on sale. Make several of them, use one for that day, and freeze the remaining for later. Meatloaves can be frozen, not cooked, or cook, cool, and freeze for later. Hamburger can be cooked in a roaster in the oven. Add 1 cup of water, stir, and place in a 350-degree Fahrenheit oven to cook. Stir occasionally to make sure the hamburger crumbles. When cooked, drain any fat off and place the cooled hamburger in smaller containers or bags and freeze. Use the cooked hamburger for tacos, chili, spaghetti sauce, or things like that. It is important to label the container or bag that has been frozen for a later date along with any cooking instructions it may have. Cool pre-cooked dishes as quickly as possible before they are placed in the freezer. For the fastest cooling, place the pan of hot food in a sink or large pan filled with ice water. If you're cooling a soup, stew, or sauce, stir occasionally to help it cool evenly. Leave as little air as possible in the packages or container. When freezing liquids in containers, allow a small amount of headroom for expansion. If the recipe calls for you to thaw before cooking, always thaw in the fridge, as this is the safest way. You do have to plan ahead. To freeze or not to freeze. While soups and stocks freeze tremendously well, anything with dairy runs the risk of curdling or separating. Any milk or cream-based gravy or sauces do not freeze well. Neither do sauces or gravies which contains cornstarch. These should be avoided in the freezer. Flour gravies do well in the freezer. Fresh potatoes do not freeze well. However, cooked potatoes are just fine to freeze and reheat. Any fruit and vegetable which contains a lot of water, such as cucumber, melon, or lettuce, should not be frozen. This delicious taco lasagna is the perfect weekend meal that everyone will love. Make 2 and freeze 1 unbaked lasagna. To use, partially thaw in refrigerator overnight, remove from the fridge 30 minutes before baking, then bake as directed. I'll have to try that. All right, the next article is by Delcy Martin, Your Listening Ear. This week her article is entitled Boundary Setting. When you think about romantic relationships, boundaries are often not the first things to come to your mind, but they are an essential component of maintaining a healthy romantic relationship. There are 4 main kinds of boundaries which are important to look at in your relationship. The first are physical boundaries, those things that could interfere with our physical sense of self. A couple of examples of these are food sharing and bed sharing. Physical boundaries are especially important for trauma survivors. When someone has survived a trauma, They have had their physical and emotional space invaded without their permission repeatedly. This can take a toll on every aspect of their self, all the way to their core. Just because you consent to having an intimate relationship with a partner, this does not give your partner the right to unrestricted access to your body. Remind your partner that you aren't rejecting them personally, nor are you rejecting intimate touch. It just needs to happen in a manner that is agreed upon by both of you, is pleasurable and predictable for you. Sexual boundaries are next. Sexual boundaries involve the physical boundaries of what kind of touch is okay during intercourse, but it also encompasses so much more. What parts of your sexual self do you share with your partner, and what do you hold back? Please remember that boundaries can be renegotiated at any time. These boundaries should never feel like coercion. They need to be placed carefully with much discussion and emotional validation. Emotional boundaries are complicated, but equally as important as others. Emotional boundaries are very important and can help strengthen emotional connection. The act of being emotionally vulnerable to say that you have a boundary and trust that your partner will not think less of you for having that boundary is a very big deal. Accepting your past can be very helpful in setting emotional boundaries. Your past relationships undoubtedly shape the person you are now. It's important to acknowledge when old triggers bleed into your new relationships. Another question for emotional boundaries is how much of your private stuff you share with other people. Boundaries vary from person to person, and you might find yourself with someone who is easily trusting of others and share more about your intimate self than you are comfortable with. Showing our partners respect is knowing how much they share with others about their life and only sharing as much as they would feel comfortable with, not how much we feel comfortable sharing. Financial boundaries are next. The concept of financial intimacy is how much of your financial life you are comfortable sharing with your partner. Do you have complete disclosure of financial information? Do you share or have separate accounts? How you speak about financial matters is also very important. Those relationships that have more financial intimacy have more disclosure, but are also able to talk about finances in a curious, problem-solving, and reasonable way. Setting financial boundaries with your partner can feel uncomfortable because it feels parental, but it's vital. Finally, time boundaries. How much time is appropriate to spend with one another in your relationship? How much time do you spend with extended family and friends? Everyone is going to come into their relationships with predetermined beliefs on what is appropriate, and there is no right answer here. The right answer is what feels best for each member of the relationship. For more information on boundaries in relationships, please check out my podcast episode on boundary setting at https://shows.acast.com/ the relationship review with Delcy Martin /episodes/boundary setting in intimate relationships. Might have to go online for that. Now the rural outlet section, it's entitled Margaret Laurence Home to Host Canada Reads in April by Casper Werhon. Passionate thought and discussion are sure to be shared in the coming weeks as the 2023 edition of Canada Reads gets underway. The annual event, hosted at the end of March by CBC, highlights 5 different books being defended by 5 debaters. As the event goes on, a book is eliminated until one remains. The books for this year are Ducks, 2 Years in the Oil Sands by Kate Beaton, Greenwood by Michael Christie, Hotline by Dimitri Nasrallah, Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno Garcia, and Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. Closer to home, Neepawa's Margaret Laurence home will once again be hosting its own version of the event. On April 17th, the reading evening will take place at ArtsForward in Neepawa beginning at 7 p.m. We held the event there last year and found that the venue just worked really well, said board member Blair Chapman. Chapman added, while the CBC event will focus on debates, our version is more centered on generating discussion about the books. We've got 5 local readers who have been recruited to read this year's books and do a short presentation as part of the evening. With the space and amenities available through ArtsForward, the evening will also include drinks and snacks, cheese, and a glass of wine. The readers of the Margaret Laurence home has selected Dawn Walmsley, Nancy Hunter, Chad McCharles, Tanny Major, and Brenda Osmond. About the books. The first one, called Ducks, is an autobiography in the form of a graphic novel recounting Beaton's time working in the Alberta oil sands. Intending to pay off her student loans, Beaton leaves her tight-knit seaside community in Nova Scotia to head west, encountering harsh realities, including the everyday trauma that no one discusses. The next book is called Greenwood. It takes place in the year 2038, most of the world having suffered from an environmental collapse. However, there is a remote island with 1,000-year-old trees where Jake Greenwood works as a tour guide. The novel takes you back in time as you learn more about Jake, her family, and how secrets can have an impact throughout generations. The next one is called Hotline. It is a novel about Muna Haddad, a widow and mother who has left behind a civil war in Lebanon and is living in Montreal in the 1980s. There, the only work she can find is as a hotline operator at a weight loss center, fielding calls from people responding to ads in magazines or on TV. These strangers share their challenges from marriages gone bad to personal inadequacies. Although her life in Canada is filled with invisible barriers, Muna is privy to her clients' deepest secrets. The next book is called Mexican Gothic. It is a Gothic horror set in 1950s Mexico. It illustrates the story of a young woman, Noemi, who is called by her cousin to save her from doom in her mysterious and alluring countryside home known as High Place. Although Noemi doesn't know much about the house, the region, or her cousin's mysterious new husband, she's determined to solve the mystery and save her cousin, whatever it may take. The last book is called Station 11. It is a dystopian novel set on an Earth that's been undone by disease and follows the interconnected lives of several characters, both before and after the plague. Among them are actors, artists, and those closest to them. One travels the wastelands performing Shakespearean plays with a troupe, while another attempts to build a community at an abandoned airport, and yet another amasses followers for a dangerous cause. So copies of each book will be available for purchase at the event, but can also be purchased ahead of time by contacting Blair Chapman by phone at 204-476-2359. So, what do we have on the next page? All right, it's some results of Bonspiels. Arden announces its open Bonspiel winners. Arden concluded its open Bonspiel recently, declaring the above teams as its 2 winners. The winners of the co-op event, James Paramore, Jesse Dirksen, Dennis Orton, and Reg Puikowski. And the winners of the Napa Auto Parts event, the team members are Kevin Paramore, Ben Brody, Pat Paramore, and Ty Paramore. And these are the Westburn Open Bonspiel winners. They concluded their Bonspiel earlier this month, marked as a great success. Those involved extend their thanks to everyone who helped in the festivities to make it an entertaining night. Pictured here are the winners of the curling events. So here we have Southpaw Ag Services event. Heather Davey, Sylvia Huber, David Huber, and Brian Erickson. This is the Suregrove Farm Services event winners. Murray James, Doug Kuhn, Gary Lehman, and Jackie Morden. And here we have the Richardson Pioneer winners of that event. Caitlin Davey, Chaz Lambert, Paula Kalita, and Sarah Belcher. And also on sports, the Yellowhead Center is going to stay frosty a little while longer, by Casper Werhan. There were a couple of items of note regarding Neepawa's Yellowhead Community Rec Center at the most recent council meeting. The first was the period of time the ice will remain in the arena. In general, the ice plant is turned off after the last weekend in March. However, the ice will remain until mid-April. Lindsay DeHolis, Director of Operations for the Yellowhead Center, explained in an interview on March 20th that this change is due in part to a shift in scheduling. We have the Big Valley Bulls tournament March 30th to April 2nd. The plant usually is turned off after this weekend, which is usually Titan Spring Camp. The Titan Spring Camp got pushed back to April 14th and 15th weekend. Another factor in the decision to extend the in-ice period was the potential for extra revenue as the winter sport season winds down. The board wanted to see if keeping our ice in a few weeks longer would generate more ice rentals as other rinks are closing for the season, DeHolis elaborated. The second item discussed was the acquisition of insurance for their 3 ice bicycle bikes, which have been modified for on-ice usage. The Yellowhead Center Board originally unveiled the recreational devices, which had been purchased from Spark Rental Inc. in Winnipeg on February 24th of 2022. With the finalization of this insurance, the ice cycles have been cleared for usage by the public. We've had a group come down and use them last week, said DeHolis. During spring break, they will be available Monday through Friday from 10:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. for anyone 10 years of age and up. Ice cycle times and days can also be found on the Yellowhead Center's social media. Ice rental information can also be found on the center's website. And here's a picture of these 3 ice bicycles. I saw on TV, on the news, they were using those on the Red River Trail by the Forks. Making the hiring process more personal by Casper Werhan. An opportunity for both employers and prospective employees is coming to Neepawa. A job fair will be taking place at ArtsForward on April 25th from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. This event is put on in partnership between Neepawa Economic Development, Neepawa and Area Immigrant Settlement Services, Westlake Employment Skills and Services Center, and the Neepawa Chamber of Commerce. When I watch the job ads in the banner and press every week, I see there is a constant demand from all different sectors for employees, said Marilyn Crew, Economic Development Officer. The job fair allows all of those employers to be in one place and for the employees to meet them all and have a chance to talk to them. Don Walmsley, Executive Director at Settlement Services, added, "It helps make the whole hiring process become more personal. We were really pleased with the response last year when we held a job fair in the fall, and we're looking forward to another great one this year." According to Marilyn Crew, response to the upcoming job fair is also evident of the demand. While there are 20 spots available in total, Economic Development has already had 11 businesses sign up to attend as of March 13th. The deadline for businesses to apply is April 17th. So the demand is definitely there, Crew enthused. It would be really great to fill every table at the job fair. So it would be great for businesses, even if they don't know what to expect there or have never done a job fair before, to give me a call and I can provide support for them to be putting their business in the right light at the job fair. For Westlake Employment and Neepawa Settlement Services, the fair also provides them with the opportunity to promote their services. Both Westlake Employment and Neepawa Settlement Services have employment officers who help prospective employees write a resume and cover letter and prepare for interviews. In relation to the job fair, these services will aid those attending to find a job and being prepared for the fair. Settlement Services also provides workshops covering a variety of topics such as cultural differences in the workplace. Crew added, "I'd like to encourage anybody considering a new job to take advantage of the community services provided by Settlement and Westlake and to attend and see the types of jobs that are available locally. It's open to all people in the community, including students. Businesses looking to apply can do so while spots remain by calling 204-476-7607. Those looking to utilize the services of Westlake Employment or Settlement Services can find both on the top floor of the old co-op building located at 342 Mountain Avenue." And some more sports pages. "A Season to be Proud of, Both On and Off the Ice" by Owen Devereaux. Well, it didn't have that sports movie style happy ending we had all hoped for. The 2023 playoff run for the Neepawa Area Collegiate Institute Tigers, or NACI, is still something they and the community in general should look upon with great pride. The incredible postseason for Neepawa came to an end on Sunday, March 19th, as they were bested by the Swan Valley Tigers in the West Bend High School Hockey League Final. With the victory, Swan Valley swept the best of three final 2-0. Though defeated on home ice at the Yellowhead Arena, Neepawa still made it a memorable game to watch for the huge gathering of family and friends in the stands, as well as those who watched it broadcast live on NACI TV. Much like a movie script, the hometown heroes fell behind early, with Swan Valley scoring the first 2 goals of the game. Neepawa battled back, however, as Riley Davey earned one less than a minute after Swan's second goal to make it 2-1. Just 2 minutes and 13 seconds later, Tristan Friesen scored to tie things up at 2-2. In the third, Swan Valley once again reclaimed the lead on a power play opportunity. For the rest of the regulation, Neepawa would throw everything they had at the Swan Valley net, coming close on several occasions, including one puck that barely stayed out of the back of the net before being swept away by a Swan Valley defender. Neepawa's persistence eventually paid off as Ward Brister sent one flying into the back of the net with just 7 minutes and 31 seconds left in the third period. That goal, off a power play, tied the game at 3-3 and would send things into overtime. During the extra time, Swan Valley were called on a penalty. This chance with an extra attacker had the hometown faithful feeling optimistic about scoring what would be the game winner. Unfortunately, Swan Valley was able to take advantage of a loose puck in the neutral zone, creating a partial breakaway into the Neepawa zone. Swan Valley forward Cash Henkelman then put the game and series to rest, scoring his third of the night to give his Tigers the championship. After the series concluded, Neepawa co-coach Troy Brister said the players should look back at what they accomplished this season with a sense of pride. We are very proud of the run the boys went on this season. We gained a lot of confidence going to 3 games in the first round and carried that through to the finals. It was not the result we wanted, losing to Swan in the finals, but as coaches, we are very grateful for the commitment and passion these boys showed right from the first practice to the final whistle, said Brister. They came together as a team and stayed focused on their goal. These players have a lot to be proud of from this season, both on ice and off. Hopefully, when they look back on it, they do so feeling proud of all they accomplished, with not only finishing second in the league, but also what they were able to give back to the communities and the community in many different ways. So here we have a picture of Riley Davey scoring the first goal of the night for Neepawa. And here we have Tarek Lapointe receiving the leading scorer award for the postseason in the championship bracket with 17 points in 8 games. It's pretty good. And here we have some pictures. It's just, we touched on this tournament in last week's edition, but the Neepawa Ballers Junior Division Championship, they defeated the Sultans of Swiss on Sunday, March 19th by the score of 69-59. So we have a bunch of pictures here. And then the senior championship, Where won the Neepawa Ballers Senior Division Championship on Sunday, defeating Lake 81-69. More sports. Season ends for Neepawa Titans with home and home against Selkirk Steelers. Titans forward Hayden Stocks closed out his first season with the MJHL with 2 points, 1 goal and 1 assist in 2 games against the Selkirk Steelers. Stocks ended the year with 53 points, 31 goals and 22 assists, finishing second in his team scoring behind Briley Wood, who had 57 points in 39 games, 19 goals and 38 assists. That's pretty good. So it shows who made the playoffs in the 2 divisions of the MJHL. In the Western Division, the 4 finalists will be Swan Valley Stampeders, OCM Blizzard, Verdun Oil Capitals, and Dauphin Kings. And in the Eastern Division, it will be Portage Terriers, Steinbach Pistons, Winkler Flyers, and Niverville Nighthawks. Don't know when that starts. Now, the Minnedosa Bombers advanced to the THHL Final by Owen Devereaux. For the second straight year, the Minnedosa Bombers are moving on the Tiger Hills Hockey League, or the THHL Championship Series. And for the second straight year, they appear to be up against the league's most dominant franchise. The Bombers earned their shot in the finals by defeating the Gladstone Lakers in the East Division Final 3-1. The series winning game was played on Saturday, March 18th, and saw Minnedosa collect a 3-1 decision. Gladstone claimed the lead early off a Stephen Clayson goal in the first period. Minnedosa tied it up in the second off a power play goal from Bryson Werbicki Mallet, and just over midway through the third, Matt Saylor scored, giving the Bombers the lead. Saylor would add an empty net goal with just 45 seconds left in the game to secure the game and series. Minnedosa will now face the top team in the Western Division, the Minneota/Elkhorn Seahawks, in a best-of-5 series starting on Friday, March 24th in Minneota. Game 2 will be played in Minnedosa on Saturday, March 25th at 7:30 p.m. This year's participants in the final matchup of the Tiger Hills Hockey League playoffs came to this point in fairly similar ways. The Seahawks made it to the championship after defeating the Souris Elks 2-0 in the West quarter final, then beating the Rivers Jets 3-0 in the semifinal, and then sweeping the Killarney Shamrocks in West Division Championship Series. Minneoka/Elkhorn has been dominant in that run, outscoring their opponents 60-13. As for the Bombers, their route to the final was in a relatively similar fashion. First, they quickly got past Pilot Mound in a quarterfinal series, 2-0. After that, they bested the Wawonesa Jets 3-0 in the semifinal. Finally, Minnedosa would defeat Gladstone Lakers 3-1 in the East Final. Minnedosa's goals for and against to reach the final was 40-22. For the Minneoka/Elkhorn Seahawks, this will be the first time the club has advanced to the THHL Final since they moved over from the North Central Hockey League this season. Minnedosa, meanwhile, will have a part of the Tiger Hills since 2015 when they jumped over from the North Central as well. The Seahawks went 17-1-0 over the course of the regular season, while Minnedosa had a 12-6-0 record. Last year, the Bombers had to face the Boissevain Border Kings, who had gone undefeated during regular and postseason play. Okay. Editors. Now, the Neepawa Ag Expo has a one-page article in the Banner and Press this week announcing that it will be held on April 4th to April the 6th, 2023. So this is the Neepawa Ag Expo auction listing. The proceeds from this auction will go towards the Neepawa Titans Junior A Hockey Club, and 10% of auction proceeds will be donated to Miles for Mental Health and their local mental health initiatives. Convenient and easy bidding on the timed auction will be powered by DLMS Farmgate Timed Auctions. So the website is www.farmgatetimedauctions.ca. So that's www.farmgatetimedauctions.ca, and you can search, when you get there, search Neepawa Ag Expo. For questions or more information, contact Matt Lowry at 204-841-83, I'll say that again. Matt Lowry, 204-841-2389, or Cam Tibbett, 204-841-3060, or Scott Newton, 204-841-4727. Now we'll go back till we run out of time and read a few things on this page. Homebodies by Rita Friesen, and it's entitled Spring Equinox. The breakfast conversation around spring equinox led to an investigation on where on Earth is the tipping point. It's the equator, and the moment of the equinox can be defined right down to the minute. An imaginary line circling the Earth determines the hour of equal daylight and no daylight hours. I truly don't care who measures it or where it is measured. I simply rejoice in the lengthening daylight hours. The other tidbit that came out of this investigation is that the actual sunrise and sunset are most rapid at the time of the equinoxes. That coincided with our observation last week about how brief a time there was between the sun setting and the sun being gone. Ha! How about that? The lengthening daylight hours are so meaningful to me. There is an increase in energy and willingness to get up earlier in the morning and willingness to take a few extra steps on my walk, and, alas, a willingness to get to spring cleaning. That sunshine shows up the smudges and seems to highlight grunge. The room that received the brunt of my attention this week was the bathroom, the smallest, most inconvenient room to clean. There was a time when reaching behind the toilet was easy, and most times this household basic is crammed into a corner. Oh, I got it done, down on my hands and my knees, reaching the furthest and furthest points. In my zeal, I removed the cover from the wall heating unit. Like those flanges were dusty. I even got the vacuum cleaner with its pointy attachment to clean as deeply as possible. Reassembling the unit, I found that it had ceased to work. Possible heat, but no fan. Considering my state of mind, it was a miracle that I quietly once again removed the cover and left the room. It's working fine now. May have had the cover on too snugly. Tasks that once were little tasks are now chores. I am getting the gardening itch. The geraniums that I stored away last fall have been watered, and the signs of growth are there. So they will come into the sunlight any day now. I am dreaming of gardens, flower, and vegetables. There are very few plants that I even try to start, choosing to support the local greenhouses instead. Just knowing that it isn't dark at supper time cheers me up. Breakfast is later in our home, so most mornings have not required lights on. Just the promise of another spring and summer have me more cheerful and optimistic. Here's an asterisk. I want to thank all of you who have spoken to me about my musings. The one last week about Maid has elicited more comments than most columns. Thank you for sharing your thoughts and opinions. Over the years, people have frequently asked me how I can write so personally and why. The answer is that I write about what I know for starters, and when dialogue begins, the comfort of knowing that we are not alone steps in. When we speak and listen, we learn we are not alone. Now, Right in the Center by Ken Waddell. A disclaimer, the views expressed in this column are the writer's personal views and are not to be taken as being the view of the Banner and Press staff. This week, it's entitled, Bored? Every parent has heard their kids state, I'm bored. In my parents' home and in ours, young people quickly learned to not say those two words. There was always another job awaiting idle hands and minds. There was always the dreaded job of cleaning out the chicken barn. Few families have that opportunity to offer children today, but there is always furniture, shelves, and floors to dust and clean. If a kid can't do their own laundry by age 12, parents aren't doing them any favors. Even if I can do laundry, but I admit my wife spoils me. Many would say there aren't the opportunities for people today to do useful chores and duties, but in addition to the above-mentioned household tasks, there is always garbage and recycling to look after, lawns to mow, snow to shovel, neighborhood cleanup to do, paper routes, many other things. If kids aren't busy, then the parents are to blame. But aside from tasks, a lot of people say there is nothing for the kids to do in this whatever town it is. Well, it seems to me that in addition to school studies, the schools have sports, crafts, fundraising, school plays, music, and a mountain of other activities. Outside of the school and home, this past month across the area, there have been endless hockey games and tournaments, basketball games, dance recitals, many other events. 4-H clubs are approaching year-end after a winter of activities. In some communities, there are gymnastics, Cub Scouts, guides, and many other programs. Playgrounds will be accessible soon. Soccer, baseball, and swimming will be happening right away, along with camping. While churches may not be as plentiful as they once were, many still have a Sunday school or youth program. There is no excuse for anyone to be bored, at least not for a lack of work or activities. Money can be a limiting factor, but a lot of activities are cheap or free. The biggest limiting factor is attitude, be it the kids or the parents. And if money is a factor, kids can often find small jobs. It's a time-honored method to find cash and beat boredom. For able-bodied youth and adults, there is no shortage of jobs. Many employers are begging for workers, and admittedly, some parents find they are short of cash, and that may be true. But don't complain about being short of cash if you drink multiple cups of takeout coffee a day, spend money on alcohol, cigarettes, drugs, or gambling. Rare is the family budget that can't be stretched a little bit towards a better lifestyle. The whole point of the above rambling is that while there are some real roadblocks, in most cases, boredom and money shortages are not as big a problem as a lack of ambition and imagination. Lessons learned too late. Faithfully yours, Neil Stroshine. Last week's column ended with Jesus' words, "Do not worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow will bring worries of its own. Today's trouble is enough for today." Matthew 6, verse 34. There are some who, after reading these words, will think that Jesus is telling us to just coast along, taking life as it comes and letting fate determine how we will spend each day. That's not how Jesus lived his life, and it's not how we should be living ours. Using these words as guidelines and seeing how Jesus applied them in his own life has helped me identify two important lessons I wish I had learned many years ago. Lesson 1. If you don't set and enforce priorities for your life, others will do it for you. No one understood this truth better than Jesus. From the moment his public ministry began, he had to deal with pressure to conform to the people's idea of what a Messiah should be and do. Their demand was always the same. If you are the Messiah, prove it. Deliver us from slavery to Rome. Feed us when we are hungry. Heal us when we are sick. Keep our borders secure and protect us from outside interference in our affairs. That was all they wanted, but it was something Jesus could not give them. Whenever someone repeated one or more of these demands, Jesus' answer was, "I have not come to do my own will, but the will of the one who sent me." John 6, verse 38. That was Jesus' priority, and he was not about to allow anything or anyone to change it. Jesus was determined to glorify, bring honor to his Heavenly Father in everything that he thought, said, and did. That should be our priority as well. If we adopt this as our life's goal, God by his Spirit will show us how to achieve it in our personal lives, in our homes and families, on the job, in our community, and in our churches. And he will alert us when others try to set priorities for us that will pressure us to do their will, not God's. Lesson 2, there is no substitute for consistent personal self-care. Jesus understood this truth better than most of us do. He was no Superman. He could not go for hours at a time without pausing to eat, drink, sleep, or spend relaxing moments away from the crowds who were constantly making demands on him. His biographers tell us of times when he went off by himself to pray, or when he took a nap in the stern of a fishing boat while his disciples sailed it across the Sea of Galilee. To do his work effectively, Jesus had to remain physically strong and mentally alert. He had to take good care of himself, and he would ask the same of you and me. There is nothing wrong with saying no when asked to do things for which you do not have the time, the knowledge, or the energy, nor is there anything wrong with telling people that you need time away from work and other activities to get the uninterrupted rest that you need. We are responsible for our own self-care. If we don't look after ourselves, no one else will, and we will pay the price for our negligence. Please take these words to heart. I am still living with the consequences of my own negligence. I do not want anyone else to have to do the same. Next week, I will share some signs of emotional and spiritual burnout. Okay, now the last thing I'm going to read is, where did it go? Oh, it must be the first page. Looking back. I'm not sure how much time we have left. But believe it or not, this goes back. This is all Neepawa history. It goes back 125 years ago today. March 24th, 1898. Oak Leaf. After many inquiries, your correspondent concludes that the majority of settlers in this district desire the post office at Alex Chandler's. Also, that a bi-weekly mail be established. H. Bowes is too far for all of us, especially when the roads are bad in the summertime. Many would have to wade for 8 or 10 miles. Laurence Robertson of Selden returned on Saturday from a trip to Scotland. While in the old land, Mr. Robertson did some effective work for the Immigration Department, persuading several families to try their fortunes in Western Canada. A brother and sister of Mr. Robertson accompanied him on the return journey and will probably remain in this district. There is every indication that the Neepawa district will receive a fair share of the immigrants arriving in the province this year. Many residents report the arrival or prospective coming. Robert Campbell of Bridge Creek is advised that 3 families will arrive from Bracebridge this week. This is positive proof that successful settlers are the best immigration agents and prosperous settlers are concomitants of good government. Neepawa is to enjoy several additional advantages from the Dominion Express Company. Mr. F.E. White is to open this week in the Ludlow block an office for the transaction of a money order business and reception of goods for shipment, so that it will not be necessary for uptown people to go with the express company. A reduction of rates and a free delivery has also been instituted, and it now costs only $1.25 per 100 from any residence in Neepawa to any address in Winnipeg, and the vice versa. Heretofore, the rate was $1.50 for delivery at the station here. Corresponding rates are made to other points besides the city. These are advantages that will no doubt be highly appreciated by Neepawa people, as they are enjoying in this province by only Winnipeg, Brandon, and Portage la Prairie besides Neepawa. 100 years ago, Friday, March 23rd, 1923, C.L. Thring has been appointed General Agent of the Manufacturers Life Insurance Company for Neepawa District. Mr. Thring has had 27 years Western experience in insurance, banking, and farming, and offers prompt attention to the company's business. This has been a favorable winter for curling, skating, the Iceman, and fuel dealers. Dances and other forms of amusement and entertainment have been nightly occurrences, but the profit taker has come short, while the profit earner is laying the foundation for perpetual prosperity. Fairly good conditions, don't you think? So 75 years ago, Thursday, March 24th, 1948, Sinclairville. The children of Sinclairville School canvassed the district, obtaining the sum of $54.25 for the Children Relief Fund. 50 years ago, in 1973, A large number of Masons from the 2nd Masonic District of Manitoba turned out Tuesday night, March 13th, at the Neepawa Masonic Temple to witness the presentation of a 70-year bar to William Whitelock by F. Hyde of Portage la Prairie, Grand Master of the Grand Lodge of Manitoba, assisted by D. W. Anderson, past Master of Neepawa Lodge. This was quite an occasion for Mr. Whitelock and the Neepawa Lodge, because it is only the second time in the history of Freemasonry in Manitoba that a 70-year bar has been presented to one of its members. And lastly, the last part I'll read here is 20 years ago, March 2003. A proposal to reopen emergency services at Gladstone's 7 Regions Health Centre has been put on hold. Central Manitoba Regional Health Authority spokesman Helmuth Clausen said 7 regions had planned to bring in 2 new doctors from South Africa. However, he said problems in obtaining visas have scuttled the plan. Meanwhile, a 3rd South African doctor is going through with the immigration process, Clausen said, but that's expected to take at least 6 months. Gladstone Mayor Catherine Smith said she's still hoping the doctor shortage will be resolved, but Westbourne Reeve Ed Stroder, who's been lobbying for more doctors, is less optimistic. Emergency services were supposed to be restored in February after the province agreed to provide temporary funding. Gosh, and the doctor shortage is still happening 20 years later. Eileen Clark of Gladstone is one of 4 Westman women to be named a Woman of Distinction by the Brandon YWCA. Clark operates one of the province's largest gift stores, Clark's of Gladstone, in what is arguably one of its smaller towns. Oh, so that's before she became an MLA. A disclaimer: the information gathered and used each week in the Looking Back feature is directly taken from the original print copy of the Neepawa Press and Banner newspapers. Any errors or omissions from stories are the result of the original print and not the responsibility of the archivist for the current version of the Neepawa Banner and Press. So that is it for this week in the reading of the Neepawa Banner and Press. So thank you again so much for joining us, and we'll see you again another time. Bye for now.